Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power of Man podcast. My name's Rory Paquette. I know you guys all know that by now, but I just want to remind you because I want to remind you how grateful I am to be here, for you folks to be listening, to be here with this outstanding gentleman across the table from me. Folks, we have a great show for you today. We really do. And you folks just deserve the biggest thanks in the world for the way you have shown up for us. I really can't believe what you've done for us here lately, and especially the DMs, my goodness. Over 100 the other day. I almost fell over. I couldn't believe what you guys were doing. And a couple of weeks ago, you guys even hit me because I used the wrong coffee cup. I love you guys. I really, really do. And today, the coffee cup is back. We got the right one. I did some dishes. Everything's great. So thank you all. If you're not out there doing what you're doing, I can't sit here and do what I'm doing. Okay. So you guys know what time it is. We got to pay a couple of bills. So let me take a sip of my preferred beverage. Good stuff right there. You guys all know what we're drinking. That's right. It's Freedom Hill Coffee at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Go check them out. Deep, dark, rich, bold, and beautiful. Just like my wife. They brew a mean bean. It's a fantastic cup of joe. Guys, you got to try it. You got to check it out. They do all the right things for all the right reasons, and they support veterans, which you guys all know is hugely important to us here at Power Man. And so we support them. Folks, go check them out. Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram at Freedom Hill Coffee. Tell them Power of Man sent you. All right, let me get another sip of this so I can keep up with this young buck on the other side of the table from me. I see he's drinking his water. He's staying hydrated while I'm apparently trying to dehydrate, drinking all my coffee. But you know what? I'm an old goat. I need the caffeine. This is how it's got to go. All right, here we go. Please welcome to our podcast today, everybody. The CSO, founder and host of Next Level University. This guy's got, over 3,000 episodes. We're talking over 1 million downloads. He's a superstar, and he's as humble as all get out. He's not even going to let you know that he's that great. It's a fantastic global self-help podcast. We're going to hear all about it. You folks, please welcome to the show, Kevin Palmieri. Kevin, how you doing today, brother?
Rory, I'm living the dream. What a great ad read. And you know what I appreciate most about it? You started with gratitude. Gratitude is the way, and I love you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate that,
You're
man.
welcome.
Always, always. If we're not
Yes,
grateful for what we're doing, then what are we doing?
100%. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
You got it. Kevin, hey, man, I know we want to talk about Next Level University and everything you have going on, but before we do that, just tell my audience, who is Kevin Palmieri? What are you about? What brings you here today, brother?
Yeah, I would say Kevin Palmieri is a man who never thought he was going to be any level of successful and or fulfilled. Somehow things worked out. And now I'm really focused on helping other people get to the next level through raising their awareness. And I just want to be a regular guy who can help people. I don't ever want to get too big for my britches. I don't ever want to lose sight of how hard this has been. And most importantly, I don't ever want to lose sight of why I started. I started this to help people. That is why I started this. Somehow it turned into a business, but that business is all about helping people. So I would say that's a really good container of who Kevin is today.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
I appreciate
Now, there's a lot of folks who say, hey, we want to help other folks. Where does that come from in your life?
being feeling like I was helpless. I think for a lot of my life. So I was raised by my mom and my grandmother. I didn't know my dad. I didn't meet my dad until I was 27, and I'm happy to go into that story for sure. But I just never felt like I had that much guidance. I didn't feel like there was really anywhere I could turn where somebody had the certainty. When it was time to start potentially looking at colleges, my mom didn't really know what to do. My grandmother didn't really know how to help me. So it was kind of like I feel like it's me against the world. And I feel like more often than not, unfortunately, the world is winning. And I just didn't have a lot of certainty. I didn't have a lot of confidence. So I felt like I was just going to end up going where the wind took me. And I did for a lot of my life, unfortunately.
I'm curious if you don't mind me asking. You said you met your dad for the first time when you were 27.
Mm.
Um, I've had some similar issues. I know that your partner has, and so have a lot of other guys. But given mine, I'm always curious when I hear a situation like that. Did you consider yourself better off for having not had your dad in your life up until that point, or was it something that was really, really lacking, and you were glad to have him back? How'd that go when you met him when you were 27?
Yeah. So for context, I was sitting on my couch one day going through Facebook messages. And I didn't realize this, Rory, but there is a folder for message requests from people that you're not friends with. It's going through it one day,
Yeah.
and you can only see the first line. Says, "Hey, Kevin, I'm blank. I'm your father's girlfriend." And again, I didn't know my dad's name. I didn't know what he looked like. I did not remember him at all. So this was like a completely mind breaking thing for me. And I remember thinking, no, no, nope, we're not doing this today. It's Saturday. It's the weekend. I am not going to open up Pandora's box here. But I was curious because the message was from 3 years prior.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I, yeah. So I opened it up. "Hey, Kevin, I'm blank. I'm your father's girlfriend. He has been seeing what you're doing on social media. It looks like you're doing really well. It looks like you're happy. If you would like the opportunity to meet, he would really like that too." And Rory, I threw my phone on the floor. I fell on the floor. I started bawling my eyes out because in my mind, one, he is a monster in my mind.
Hmm.
Two, I have said some very negative things about this man with the thought that I'm never going to have to look him in the eye. And three, I never thought this opportunity was ever going to present itself. So I texted one of my friends who knew my story really well. And I said, "My dad messaged me and he wants to meet." And they said, "Are you going to do it?" And I said, "I think I have to. I don't want to, but I think I'm supposed to."
Yeah.
And they were a really good friend. And they said, "Do you want me to come with you?" And I said, "No, yeah, but no, this is one of those things I have to do by myself." So I agreed. I said, "Let's meet at a halfway point." And I remember I went to this diner on like a Saturday morning. I got there early, went in, sat at a booth, and I had this like humbling slash terrifying moment of, I don't know what this guy looks like. So when he gets here, he's going to have to find me, and this is going to be even more awkward than I already planned. The bald guy walks by the window, and I don't know how to explain it. I got the tingles, I got the vibration. I was like, that's him. That's my dad. So he came in, he sat down. It was about as awkward as you can imagine if you haven't experienced it. And there was at one point where he started crying and he was apologizing and just, I was stoic. "You will get nothing from me, sir. You will get nothing from me." And as the conversation went on, I opened up and he opened up. And it got to the point where I had some really valuable life lessons that I never thought I was going to get. One, I actually felt bad for him. I was looking across the table at a 60-year-old man who was way less mature and evolved than I was at 27. His life did not turn out great, and my life was going pretty well, all things considered. So that was one. The other thing was I had a level of forgiveness. I don't think he woke up one day and said, "You know what? I'm really going to screw this kid's life up." That's not what happened. He was going through his own stuff and he wasn't capable of handling that and showing up as a father. Acceptable? No, but that is an explanation. And then I think the last thing I had was I can't believe I gave so much power to somebody who I thought was a villain who was just not capable of harnessing that power at all.
Hmm.
So I left that day feeling like I had grown a lot internally. I ended up spending a couple times with him after that, thinking like, "Oh, let's see what happens." And then it just got to the point where I live a very unique life where you can't just text me Thursday at 3 and expect me to get back. You can't call me in the middle of the day. I'm never going to answer. My phone's it's always on silent. He didn't understand that. And it's like he wanted to go right to father son relationship.
Hmm.
So that started to, there were some red flags there because I knew that wasn't sustainable. And the straw that broke the camel's back, I posted a picture on Facebook of my wife and I, my beautiful wife and I. And he commented one thing: the mustache has to go. That was it. Not beautiful family, not "I'm so proud of you." The mustache has to go. Sir, read the room. My friends can say that to me. You can't. So in my mind, Rory, that was like, okay, we gave this a shot. We tried it out. This isn't ever going to be what I thought it might be or what he thought it was going to be. So yeah, I kind of just let it die. I don't want to lead him on. I don't want him to think this is ever going to be something it's not going to be. And I feel like I got what I needed, and I hope he got what he needed too. So I would say, all things considered, I was probably better off for him not being there. But I also am very privileged with the fact that I got the opportunity to look him in the eye and figure that out myself.
Yeah, it would seem like that might give you some sort of closure on the situation.
for sure.
But wow. Wow,
Interesting.
brother.
The
Yeah.
mustache has to go, Rory. What are we doing?
I mean, because that's where you need the fatherly advice from, of course.
Yeah, yes, that's it. That's
Thanks for
that's
the
the one.
critique.
Yeah, the one piece. Thank you so much for that, Pops.
Oh my gosh. I love how you just so casually said read the room. That's not what the post is about either. You know?
No, nope. It's about
No.
my wife and I. We know we're in love. We're married. But again, what do you expect?
Yeah,
What do you expect? That
right.
that's the hard truth of it. Is that's exactly why this went the way it did. Unfortunately, right?
Sure. Now, I know that that's going to impact anybody. I've been through a similar situation, but not like that. Just, whole different set of horrors. You know what I mean? I think
Of
we all
course,
have some of those stories. But yours, I mean, just absence completely like that. And then boom, here I am is a little shocking, I would think, to
mm,
to process. Um, I know that you went through some rough times, and you've talked about that, very openly, and you want to help other people with that. Um, were some of those rough times, like you've talked about, was that the stuff that happened before the interaction with your father, or
yep,
was it after? And it was before then.
yeah. That happened before that.
Okay.
Yeah. So for most of my life, I was convinced that I was going to be just a loser. When I was young, everybody felt smart. It just felt like everybody was smarter than me and they knew what they wanted to do. And I felt like I was coming from this broken home and all of my friends' families like tried to adopt me and bring me in and have me over for dinner and for sleepovers. And it was always like, you guys think there's something wrong with me? You guys think I'm like defective? I feel like I'm an underdog, yeah, but I feel like you guys are really pouring on the underdog energy here. So I didn't really understand that at the time, but in reflection, I did. So I decided not to go to college. Pretty early in high school, I knew I wasn't going to. I got a job at the local gas station, and it begins this perpetual cycle of just my self worth just being destroyed on repeat. So I'm at the gas station and all my friends are at college and the girls that I went to high school with, they come back in the summer and they're beautiful and they're doing college and I'm still pumping gas. Then from there I went and worked at a hospital cleaning bathrooms and floors overnight. I remember I tell this story all the time and this tells you exactly where I was. I worked overnights and there was a guy I worked with named Adam. And he came to me one day and he said, "Dude, you know that beautiful blonde nurse on the second floor? She has a crush on you." And I was like, "Adam, she's like 6'1". I'm 5'5". This isn't real." No, no, she doesn't. What are you saying? He's like, "Dude, I'm telling you, she does. You got to go talk to her." How could somebody like that ever want somebody like me? I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't fathom it. We ended up going on a couple dates and we dated for a very short time. So cool, it happened, but I always thought that they must just not see what's wrong with me. They just must be missing that. So I ended up leaving that job. I'm a personal trainer, then I'm a truck driver, then I'm a forklift operator, tiling, HVAC, on call firefighter for a very short period of time, just all over the place. Eventually, I got a job in an industry called weatherization. So we would go into large buildings and make them more energy efficient. It's the easiest way to explain it. And since I worked on government and or state contracts, I was getting anywhere from 60 to $120 an hour. I was convinced, Rory, that here we go. I did it. Right? This everything I've suffered through is worth it. So here
Right.
we are. So if you looked at me when I was 25, I had a beautiful girlfriend. She was a model. I had this high paying job. I had a nice car, a brand new apartment. I was getting ready to compete in a bodybuilding show. So I was quite literally in the best shape I will ever be in. Health, wealth, love, I had them all. But internally, I was miserable, just miserable. Girlfriend comes to me one day, sits me down at the table, and says, "Hey, I'm leaving.
Oh,
I have very big goals." Yeah, it was brutal. "I had very big goals, very big aspirations, and I just don't feel like you're the man who can support me in that." And she was right. She was 100% right. But the thing she said after that really struck me. It was like, how did we get here? She said, "I was going to leave you last month, but I was afraid if I did, you might kill yourself." And I remember thinking, how the heck did we get here? And I just want to clarify. She didn't say it in a negative way. It wasn't like a dig. It was like, I'm worried about you, Kev. It's like, okay, how did we
Hmm.
get here? So she left, and my initial rock bottom started where work got slow, my bills doubled. I 100% have an eating disorder from my bodybuilding show. I'm living an hour and a half away from any of my friends because I moved up there with her. It just was brutal. I convinced myself, as I think a lot of us unfortunately do, that I just need to go make a boatload of money and then these problems should just dissolve away.
Right. Yeah.
So, spoiler alert, they didn't. So I grind my face off for the next year. I get a promotion. It's the busiest year that company has ever had. I spent 10 months living on the road because most of our contracts were in other states up and down the East Coast of the US. Got to the end of the year, cracked open my final pay stub. And when I say I was never home, I opened my final pay stub at my kitchen table that didn't have chairs because my ex girlfriend took the chairs because they were hers. And I just never bought new ones because I just didn't care. I was never home. Doesn't matter. I made $100,000, 26 with no college degree. Should be feeling on top of the world.
Yeah.
Not feeling on top of the world. Financially, things changed and somewhat externally, things changed. But internally, it was worse than it had ever been. And I thought to myself, for most of my life, I've lived unconsciously. I don't ever know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, why do I do the things I do? The opposite of unconscious is hyperconscious. So I did what any 26-year-old man would do. I started a podcast called the Hyperconscious Podcast. And that's where all this started for me, Roy. I have no idea who I am. I want to know everything about myself. So in 2017, I started this podcast and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with podcasting. Oh my goodness, I'm in love with it. But I had to keep going to this job that now I hated. Money was the reason I was doing it. I don't care about the money. I know that's not the answer. I don't want to do this job anymore. The year was starting off to be super crazy and a ton of travel. I was getting homesick before I even packed my bags. My depression was worse. My anxiety was worse. I wasn't sleeping. Start calling out of work, showing up late, leaving early. Eventually, I was working in in New Jersey, and I lived in New Hampshire at the time. I'm in a hotel, wake up at 5:30, alarm clock goes off, sit up, slide to the edge of the bed, and the best way to explain it is there's 10 televisions on in my head at the same time, and every single one is on a different station. And one is saying you're stuck here forever. Kev, you got lucky. Gas station, cleaning toilets at a hospital. You're not supposed to be here, brother. Don't screw this up. If you ever left this job, what would your friends think? You make more money than any of your friends. There's a lot of significance there. All my guy friends, they like that I have money, and I like that I have money. What would your family think? Nobody in your family has ever achieved this level of success. And then the loudest thing was, what are you going to do? You really think this podcast thing is going to work out? That's what we're going to do. And it was in that moment where I thought to myself, well, if I was just to take my life, I would take all my problems with me. And I'm 6 hours away from anybody who cares. Just dark, crusty, dirty, stinky hotel room. And I ended up texting Alan. I texted Alan. Alan was my friend at the time, long before we were business partners. And I said, dude, I'm having the worst time right now. And I'm having these thoughts and these feelings and these emotions, and I don't know what to do. And he said a lot of things. He's long-winded, which I have now adopted from him. So my sincere apologies. My
Not at
sincere
all.
apologies. And he said, Kev, over the last couple of years, your awareness has changed a ton, but your environments have remained the same. I think it's time for you to change your environment. And for me, that was enough. It was like, oh, okay, there's other options. So I ended up leaving my job 3 months later. Him and I partnered up, and then we've been doing this full time since 2018. The hard part about it is it got worse after that. My anxiety got way worse after that because I went from a life of having some certainty to just being an entrepreneur, being so broke, lonely. I remember I was having panic attacks on the floor one time and I thought I was dying because I didn't know what panic attacks. It was terrible.
Yeah.
But the thing that jumped off the page was I was the least externally successful I had ever been. I was the most internally fulfilled and the most proud of myself I had ever been. And that for me was a really good suggestion that at least I was on the right path. The path had tacks and Legos and thorn bushes, but the path was an aligned path. And yeah, that was kind of the beginning of the next part of this strange journey I've been on.
Wow. And God bless you, man. I'm glad that didn't happen, obviously.
Same, same.
I think that there's a lot in there. The first thing that stands out to me is that when you were at that point, you had somebody that you could call
Yep.
that answered. That's awesome. Without that, a lot of us end up in that downward spiral that we can't get out of.
Mm.
How important was that to you that you actually had someone say, "Hey, I'm here. What do you need?"
It was
to
everything.
bounce you out of that?
Yeah, it was everything. It was everything. Oftentimes people will give me a lot of credit in that where I don't think I necessarily deserve it. They'll say, "Well, how are you so vulnerable to reach out to somebody?" Alan and I had cried together so many times before that. That was nothing. That wasn't me being vulnerable. That was me reaching out to my mentor, who I knew would be there. I knew he would be there to answer. So I had so much. I'm very privileged to have that. What I always say, and it's so hard because it doesn't help you if you're struggling right now. Maybe it does. I think a lot of us worry about building the umbrella when we're in the middle of the thunderstorm. I had built the umbrella with Alan for the last year or so, had deep conversations, vulnerable conversations, just talking about life. I had already built the umbrella, so I knew where to go when the rainstorm and the thunderstorm started.
Yeah.
If right now life is great, start building those deep relationships. Start being vulnerable. It's easy to be vulnerable when you don't feel like you have to be. That's always the advice I give because so much of that was just me being proactive without knowing I was going to need the results of the proactivity.
Wow. I know you've done a lot of work, on yourself and since then, and so forth, especially to get where you are. And I can't applaud you enough for the comeback that
I
everybody
appreciate it.
sees, but the one underneath is starting to become a little clearer too. And power to you, brother, for pulling out of that.
Thank you.
No matter who helped you, you did it, and that's fantastic.
I appreciate it.
As you've done that work, I'm curious, again, in my own personal situation, probably guiding this questioning. So I apologize to you.
No worries.
But I'm curious how much you have, in looking back, how much your situation with your father had to do with all that.
The mental health part,
Yeah. And always feeling like, it was never, you were never enough.
that I mean, the never enoughness, definitely. I think I internalized if I was good enough, he would have stayed. Like, why would he leave? What's wrong
Right.
with me, right? Even though he's not even on my birth certificate. Like, that's not
Wow.
even, yeah, yeah. So this
Yeah.
was never going to work. This was never going to be a thing. Now I know, but at the time I didn't. Yeah, that was a big piece of it. In retrospect, my family has a history of mental health problems.
Oh,
I
really?
which
Okay.
I didn't really. Yeah, I got a text from my mom one day. My uncle sat in the garage with his motorcycle running and killed himself. And I never knew that was like a thing. There was no signs of that. There's
Oh,
been some other mental health struggles in my family. So one, I think it kind of sort of runs in my family.
yeah.
And I think I was just so unaware of myself that I assumed. I think it's logical. Like when I grew up, I didn't feel popular, I didn't feel smart, I didn't feel successful, and I didn't feel certain. In my mind, if I just create a life that has all of those, then it should just like work itself out.
Yeah.
Logically, it kind of makes sense, but that's not the way it works. So yeah, I think the not feeling good enough was my dad not being there, and the mental health stuff. I think it was just it runs in the family. I thought I could just tough it out. I'm strong. I go to the gym. I don't have to worry about it. And then by the time I was like open to it, I don't want to say it was too late because it's never too late, but it had crossed the chasm that it didn't have to cross if I was willing to look in that mirror sooner.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Um, I had a really horrible medical thing happen to me last year, and I know a lot of guys I've talked to, they've had cancer or something like that. They've had some things happen, and it's like you never really feel like you're over it. It's sort of always there, and you're always having to like make sure you're doing what you have to do so that you don't go back there. With your situation, is that a similar thing that you have to go through where it's like, I always have to worry about whether or not it's there? I can't slip back into this depression thing. Or do you really feel like it's gone and you have moved forward and cut it off?
Yeah, very humbly, I feel like it is gone.
Good
I
for you.
something when I left my job, Rory, something happened. Everything it felt so much better. Now my anxiety, like I said, got drastically worse.
Well,
So I traded
entrepreneurial,
one,
yeah.
right? Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. It makes sense. But I kind of traded one for the other. Now, do I still have days where I don't want to get out of bed? No, that would be a lie. No, no, what I will say is I don't necessarily know, and it always makes Alan sad when I say this. I don't necessarily know that this journey is the most healthy for me because it has taken parts of me I will never get back, very honestly and very transparent. Like this has been a freaking grind.
Yeah.
Just so much work internally behind the scenes on the business. So I don't know that I'm cut out for the path that I've chosen. I think I've just adapted and evolved and I'm just willing to suffer. If that is what it takes to be the level of successful and impactful that I desire, I will just suffer and I'm okay with it. I don't know. I don't know if that's the bodybuilding. There's a weird piece of me that I just respect people who self-sabotage for some yeah, for some reason. Were you ever into like professional wrestling like WWF,
Oh,
WWE?
yeah. Absolutely.
You remember the Hell in the Cell match with Mankind and The Undertaker?
I, re- I remember the Hell in the Cell match. I remember the Undertaker. Yeah. Yeah. I think I do.
There was a match where, and again, I used to love this. There was a match where this guy named Mankind, who was not the most athletic, not a good looking man, he could just take more punishment than anybody else. He got thrown off the top of the Hell in the Cell, dislocated his shoulder, broke his arm, broke a rib, something like that. So they're wheeling him out and they're like, hey, this is real. Like he's really injured. We have to stop the match. They're wheeling him out on a stretcher and he gets off the stretcher and says, I'm not done yet. Climbs to the top of the Hell in the Cell, which is 15 feet in the air, gets choke slammed through the top, lands on his head and gets knocked out completely, is concussed for sure, still won't stop the match, finishes the match. I was watching the interview of him talking about it and I was crying because I have so much respect for that. I don't know why. I don't know where it comes from. I have so much respect for the fact that he just kept going. I don't know what it is. I don't know where that comes from, but I've always had a piece of me that's like, I will just outsuffer you then. I'm not the best. I'm not the smartest, but I can just deal with more pain than you. And eventually that will hopefully pay off. It's a weird thing I've been exploring about myself lately, but my appreciation for the level of suffering that certain humans are willing to endure is just, yeah, it's something I'm leaning into and trying to figure out what it means.
Where are you from again?
Massachusetts originally.
Okay, East Coast. All
Yep.
right. Now, all Matt, you didn't do any time in like Bensonhurst or anything, right? Because I
I
mean,
didn't do any
honestly,
time anywhere.
it's that's I mean that is a seriously old school Italian mentality that you're sporting right there. And I mean I like seriously, you got to be my age and older to be thinking that way almost where you just absolutely appreciate the fact that someone's getting beaten to a pulp and we just don't stop ever. That's like Rocky
Yeah.
1, you know what I
Well, I
mean?
feel like what if that's my superpower? Like when you look at something, there's certain things like I can't even talk about it without crying. There's certain Instagram channels where people go to like they'll go to a store and they'll see like a single mom or a single dad who's struggling with money and they just like buy him stuff. I have to do that. If I do not get to the stage where I can do that, I will not be happy. I will not be happy with myself. I need to do that. That is a piece of me that it's not like somebody could say, well, Kev, you don't have to. No, no, I do have to. I don't know how to explain it. I have to. It's not a want. It is a need. There's just certain things that just move me. And like that Mankind documentary, I'm just crying like a fool, like eating my chicken and rice, just bawling my eyes out. And I think it's because he knew that he was never going to be the best looking. And he knew that he didn't have the gifts that other people had, but he had a gift that almost nobody wanted and was so appreciated and he's loved for it. And there was a point at the end where they said, now knowing what we know about CTE and concussions, would you change anything? And he said, honestly, I don't think I would. Like even if I die early, I kind of think the same. I This journey is not necessarily the most healthy. It just isn't. But I don't know. I don't know if I would do. I don't know if I could go back. Would I change anything? I don't think so. I love this.
Nice. Just for the record, I wasn't actually asking if you'd been in jail.
Oh, I thought that's what you're saying.
No, when I was like, do any time, I was kind of like, did you live in,
Oh,
Bensonhurst or
oh,
something?
oh.
So I apologize for miscommunication there. But, folks, I really wasn't accusing this poor guy
No
of being in
worries.
jail.
I wouldn't be offended at all if you had. It's like, yeah, no,
So,
it would
no.
track based on all the other stuff I've mentioned. So it's
Yeah,
all good.
no, 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 not at all. I see the spider web on your arm over there, and that's not a jailhouse stat. It goes on the other side on the elbow. So, no, but we're good. I guess maybe the ironic piece out of all this, your story and everything else that comes through, is that everything you went through, the near miss, the recovery, part with your father, everything you went through, internally, externally, it all prepared you, frankly, for success as an entrepreneur, probably better than anything else ever could. Which is kind of what you're talking about. It's like
Yeah.
I'm good at this because I can take the pounding, but I don't really know if this is the best thing for me because I'm taking a pounding. I mean, but that's the
Yeah.
part that drives people out of entrepreneurial pursuits is they can't take the pounding. So yeah, how do you rectify that? I mean, because you're very good at the entrepreneurial thing, brother. I'm sure you know that.
I appreciate it. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. How do I rectify it? I have just let go of any expectation that this is going to make my life easier. Like I didn't start a business to sell a business and sit on the beach. I started a business to help people. I mean, that's it. I don't, my life has gotten drastically harder since we started just because there's more pressure and there's more time and there's more overwhelm and there's more responsibility. It's privilege pressure. I get to choose, which I'm super grateful for. And I don't want to lose sight of that. But yeah, I'm under no delusion that my life's going to get any easier. And I think that's really good for me. I'm never going to be the entrepreneur that tells you to read the 4 hour work week and work less. Like, if that's the advice you want, I'm not the guy for you. I'm not. I want to be the best in the world at this. I want to be the best. You don't do 3,000 episodes of a
Yeah.
podcast just because I want to be the best I can be and I want to impact people and I want to crank it up. I want to crank it up to 100. So I think it's a question of what are your core values, what are your core beliefs, and then what are your core aspirations. My core value is humility, work ethic, grit, and consistency. Like those are core values of mine. My core belief is I do not deserve any more success than I currently have. I am exactly as successful as I should be based on the amount of effort I'm putting in. And then my core desire, my core goal is to have the most successful personal development company on the planet. It's not going to be easy, right? If I'm under any delusion that this is going to be easy, I'm going to lose, and I don't think that helps anybody. When I did a bodybuilding show, I hired a coach, and he said, "You want to win this show?" And I said, "That's why I'm doing it. I'm not doing this for fun. I want to win." He said, "All right, cool. If you really want to win, you will suffer more than anybody else does." Best advice I've ever gotten. Best advice I've ever gotten, Rory. Imagine if he said, "Yeah, this will be fun, it'll be easy, and you'll win." Not a chance.
Yeah.
He prepped me. He prepped me to say, "Look, this is going to be maybe the worst thing you ever do." Like, okay, thanks for letting me know. It's worse than I thought it was going to be still, but I think just having the proper expectations is one of the reasons so many of us either succeed or don't. And yeah, I think I've been, in the beginning, I was naive to what this was going to take. Now I think I'm just way more accurate. So I'm under no delusion. I don't think it would be serving me to be.
I can't tell you how refreshing it is to hear a a younger guy talking about you have to literally suffer in order to make it, because I just I've run into a lot of younger guys, and I think that's one of the things that they're kind of missing. I'm not criticizing anybody. It's just that in their genetic makeup, there isn't the idea. It's never been proposed to them um, that you have to suffer
Mm,
in order to get through and earn your way. They really feel like if I just do it right, if I'm suffering, it means I'm not doing it right. And it's like, no,
yeah.
suffering's part of it.
Yeah,
That means you are doing it right because you're
I
suffering.
agree. Well, it's hard because we've had mentors in the past that say like suffering is a state of mind, suffering's a choice. It's like, look, I'm not I'm not that transcendent maybe. Maybe I'm not at the conscious level where I think of it that way. I don't think I ever want to be. Like what why delude myself into thinking that it's not suffering, that it's not sacrifice? It is. I'm with you. I can't be with my wife. That is a sacrifice, right? Now, I love this. So it's not a drastic sacrifice, but if you're choosing one thing in replacement of another thing and both things are valuable, you kind of are sacrificing a little bit. The point that I was thinking of this today, I think suffering is required for success, but success does not necessarily equate to fulfillment. And that's where the whole conversation of if if you want to maximize your potential and you want to have the most successful anything in the world, then you can be on a journey like we are. And if that fulfills you, that's important. If that doesn't fulfill you, this ain't it for you. And I think that's really important is hard work and grinding and consistency, like really grinding might not be beneficial for you out there in your fulfillment. Two different two different things, I think. It's
Yeah.
important. I think that's why hustle culture is so dangerous if it suggests it's also going to create fulfillment. Because if you're not fulfilled while working really, really, really hard, it kind of puts you in a rough spot. So it's a challenge to juggle both of those at the same time. I'm fulfilled by this. I like getting into the end of the day and saying, "Whoa, that really tested me." Like I
Yeah.
enjoy that. But if I didn't, I don't think this journey would be very positive at all, honestly.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's impressive as all get out. So again, power to you. For what that's worth. Yeah, this is also, as far as I'm concerned, why you and your partner are having so much success right now, and why I love having you on the show. You guys are, you put together Next Level University. That was the two of you that put
Mm-hmm.
that together.
Yep.
You know what? Hey man, we got to stop talking about how great you are, and you got to tell everybody about Next Level University. Tell what is this and what is that about, brother?
Yeah, it's a podcast that we do an episode every day on helping you create success and fulfillment through personal development. We're not get rich quick. We talk about the unsexy fundamentals of personal development. And honestly, I don't want it to be any other way. I don't care. I love it. And I think that's what really moves the needle. And then from that, we've been able to create a really good sized community of like minded people. So we have the podcast that we do every day. We have a Facebook group. We do free monthly meetup, free book club. We have free courses. We have a bunch of things going on. And then we do one-on-one coaching, group coaching. We have a podcast production company, which is it's a whole thing. We have a journal. So yeah, it started out as we really, really want to add value to people and just give and give and give and overgive. Then it got to the place where we realized we're kind of martyrs and we're going to go out of business if we don't start treating this like a business. And then we started treating it like a business. But the most simple blanket statement I would say is no matter where you are in your personal development journey or where you are in your financial journey, there is somewhere for you at NLU. If it's free, awesome. I don't care if you ever spend a dollar. If you want to spend money, you can come do that too, but I want to make sure there's a place for everybody. And that is a big pillar of NLU and what we do.
Nice. Okay. So it's self-help, but is it, for folks who may be a little confused, is it self-help in general, or is it self-help in particular about podcasting?
No, so it is self-help in life.
Okay.
Yeah, it is self-help in life. So I have a podcast called Podcast Growth University that's all about podcasting. So that's like an offshoot of the business. It's been weird because when we started, Alan and I were both coaching on like personal development. Then people started asking me for podcast advice. I was like, I don't know anything. And they're like, you've done 500 episodes, you know something. I was like, all right, well, I'll give it a shot. I fell in love with that. It's like, I love the art of podcasting. So I started coaching predominantly podcasters. Alan has been a business coach in his mind forever. So he started coaching business owners. So it's been a very weird thing where the self improvement, personal development thing is the best cheat code for us as humans because we get to grow every day.
Right.
We pour that into the audience, and then yeah, I have my podcasting stuff. He has his business stuff. So it's formed a really nice triangle.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. The now a lot of our listeners on this show are we're 85% men, but I think you do that. And most of those men are fathers or husbands of some kind. And one of the things I hear more than ever before, especially over the last few years, and it's still continuing today, is this feeling of just being stuck. This feeling of, where I'm at is not good enough, but I don't know how to go somewhere else. It's like I can't leave the job I got necessarily. People are looking into side hustles. They're looking into second jobs, so on and so forth. Is podcasting a good way to go for that type of thing for these guys? Do you have other recommendations on that? What are your thoughts
No.
that way?
Yeah, I would say no. If you're thinking like I need a way to drive extra revenue, I wouldn't do podcasting because in the short run, you're signing up for 2 years before you make money. If you're in love with something and you want to really get your voice out there and there's passion and purpose behind it, I don't know if there's a better way than podcasting, honestly, because you get to connect with people. If you're lonely, you get to have conversations with people, you can build community. So I think it's good for that, but it takes a long time to drive revenue. And I'm never going to be the podcast coach who says, yeah, you should do. No, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And I don't want anybody to sign up for that. What I always say is I think a lot of us have an all or nothing mentality. And I think when you go from nothing to all, it makes for a sexy story like this. Like I quit my job and went all in. I wouldn't do that if I was somebody else, for sure. So I always say it's a reallocation of percentages. So if right now you're 100% 9 to 5, what is the side hustle that you're kind of into? Photography? Cool. Let's work our 9 to 5. And then on Saturday, we go shoot. And then that's your 10%. And then eventually you do 90. Then you can maybe do like 90-10 instead of 110. Cool. Maybe then it's 80-20. Then it's 70-30. Then it's 60-40. I think that's just way more realistic because circumstantially, I didn't have kids. My car was paid off. I lived with my best friend and paid $500 a month in rent. No family, no wife, no household, right? No responsibilities. I can take a shot that maybe other people weren't able to. So, yeah, I think it's more a reallocation of percentages than anything. I know we want to get there and I know we want to get there fast. I think that's one of the reasons a lot of us feel stuck because that's just not realistic. We need to focus on progress. But that progress is what dictates the finish line. I think we see the finish line and say, I have to get there. You can't hit the finish line without making progress. So we always say break the goals down into something smaller. Again, 2,000 episodes sounds really sexy. That was just a day and a day and a day. It's just an accumulation of days is all it is. We didn't just go from 0 to 2,000, right? So yeah, I would say make it smaller and reallocate percentages. You can get pretty far just practicing on the side. There's no pressure. There's not as much pressure. I know there's pressure to get out of what you're maybe not super happy doing, but I think the pressure of being broke and having to make money is probably potentially worse.
Usually, yeah.
Usually,
Usually that's a driving force for sure. But I appreciate your honesty though,
of
and,
course.
and that you just went there. You're like, you know what? This is what I do, but you know what? Maybe not. So,
I got to be honest, Roy. I told you at the beginning. I don't. There's something in our industry, personal development, called snuggy self improvement, and snuggy self improvement is meant to make you feel good, not be good. I don't want that. I don't want to give that. Yes, I want you to feel better, but what if the only way to sustainably feel better was to do better? If that's where we're going to start, then I can't just say, everybody should have a podcast. No, everybody should not have a podcast. If you're passionate about it, awesome. But like, I would die for this. That's how commit. I would die for this podcast. That's how committed I. This is my everything. I've traded everything. I have my wife and I have the podcast and the business. Everything else, whatever. Like this is what I'm ride or die when it comes to this. If you're not that level of serious, do the thing that you're that level of serious for sure.
Love it. Love it. So you guys created Next Level University. So who is it that you're aiming for? Like who's your target market with Next Level University? What are you trying to build there?
That's a great question because we have revisited that many times. Right now, we're really dialed in on if you're somebody who just wants to get better and you're sick of all the guru talk, you can come hang out with us. That. It's like if I had to put two words, it would be everyday elite. Every day we get a little bit more elite. That's it. Just every day, little by little by little. I'm not a guru. I don't have all the answers. None of that. But I am on this grind with you. I'm not a bajillionaire who just does this for fun. I'm on the grind with you every single day. I'm at the gym trying to get a little bit better. So, yeah, if you're looking for somebody who's like walking the talk, not feels like they arrived and are now telling the people down how to do it, we're never going to arrive. So if you want to be on a journey forever, that tends to be our type of people. Humble, hardworking, and heart driven. Those are really the three types. Entitlement is never going to work in our community. It can't. It can't. So if you're heart driven, humble, and hardworking, you'll always have a place at NLU.
Nice, great answer.
I
I like
appreciate it.
that. Okay. Um, all right. I got to ask you this question because, I
Please.
see you guys on social media and, I've interviewed your partner and, one thing that stands out about you guys, obviously, is, you're both built. And, so I know that physical fitness is a huge part of what you guys not only practice, but also what you preach. And he's always filming himself in the gym. I mean, I'm not a little guy by any means, but I'm still impressed by dudes who, go out and film themselves because you're putting yourself out on display and you're sitting here with the gun show, going on,
I appreciate it.
on Zoom. So everybody's going to see that. But you guys, I know that this isn't just like a vanity clip for you guys. I mean, you believe in this as part of your being, and it seems like it's also part of your prescription for other folks. Am I picking that up right? That you think that this is really important and maybe a good step for people to take if they are feeling kind of stuck?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be what I do. You don't have to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to lift heavy weight. I think just moving your body. It's we have one body. I know it's like pie in the sky, but you literally are in this vessel for your entirety of life. And I want to have a strong, capable body. I don't want to I saw my grandmother, she has emphysema and she's on oxygen and she can't walk up and down the stairs. Like I don't want to be that. I don't ever want to have to call somebody to help me move something. Even if that's from a place of ego. Like I want to be strong enough to do it. I just want to be strong enough to do it. And I love the process. I think I'll say the gym and bodybuilding are really good analogies for life because you can physically create changes and you can see them. But it takes longer than you want usually. And you learn a lot about yourself in that process. So, yeah, I think physical exercise is key. And it, you can work on the mindset and you can work on learning. That's all great. And that's always going to be amazing. But if you want to be well rounded, I think this is part of your mission and part of your tagline and your prescription: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Physical. That's one of them. Mental, emotional, spiritual, all super, super important. But as we age, things get worse. And yeah, I want to try to prevent that as much as I can. And I love it. I'm a meathead. I love lifting heavy weight and I there's a part of me that likes being hungry and I'm dieting right now. So it's like Alan and I have that in common. That's one of the things we started was working out together. That was like a really big thing for us. And I did a bodybuilding show and he did fitness shows. So we were two peas in a pod when it came to that.
That's nice. I have in the past basically told people that physical fitness and what you do there is a sort of a harbinger of things to come if you're looking at entrepreneurship.
Mm.
Because if you can't put in a couple hours of just really hard suffering and discipline to, fix your body with delayed returns that don't just show up tomorrow, that's what entrepreneurship is.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
if you can't do that, maybe you don't want to open up your own business. Just curious, how you would feel about a statement like that.
I would say it's very accurate. And the duality, the internet has made it easier for that not to be as true, I would say. I'm
Interesting.
always I'm
Okay.
always very cautious, Rory, to talk trash about internet business because if there was no internet, we would have no podcast. So
True.
I'm not saying it's I think that okay, this is my thesis. There are many people who are not actually successful at business, but they have convinced a lot of people that they're successful at business, therefore making them successful at business. And honestly, they don't work that hard. If you want to be aligned and authentic and heart driven and character driven, I think that's a really good statement. But there's a lot of people out there that say, I'm gonna skip that. It's kind of like the surgery route versus the fitness route. I think there's the same in entrepreneurship. And I think the internet has made that possible, where this is always my analogy. I get reached out to all the time, I'm sure you do too, by social media growth experts. And they have 6 pictures on their Instagram and they have 210,000 followers, and it's all fake. Some people will fall for that and they will get paid and they will be more successful. And then they can start a new business on how I made a course on how to help people with social media, and it just perpetuates. So I think if you're trying to be character driven and really earn it, fitness is a great representation of what it's going to take. If you're trying to cheat the system, eh, you can Photoshop your pictures, you can Photoshop your business. So I think it's the duality of both. Now, obviously, you know which one I'm for, but the other one does exist, unfortunately.
That might be the best counterpoint I've ever heard to that line. I'll be honest with you. I love that you did that. That's you brought up a very, very, very good point right there.
I appreciate it. It pisses me off. That's why I'm so it's there. It's like I can't stand that it works, but there's a lot of people out there running that system, unfortunately.
That's awesome. All right, man. I could sit here and chat with you for
Same,
hours,
brother. Same.
and I really appreciate you coming on. You've covered a ton. So this is what I want to do is just kind of as we wrap things up, I want to kind of give you the floor, all right, and let you, close us out. Is there anything I didn't ask you about that you want to make sure we talk about today? Is there something maybe we did talk about and you want to just drive it home a little further? Or is there maybe a piece of advice, nugget that you want to leave behind for my guys listening to you right now? Brother, the floor is yours. Take it where you will.
Hmm. Oh, it's hard. This is a hard thing because I think for humans, I'll say this, for men, for me as a man, it is my responsibility to get better. When my wife comes to me and there's something going on and I messed up and I said something incorrectly, whatever it is, I literally just say, you know what? I got to get better. I got to get better. That's it. That is the answer. Let me not blame, shame. Do I blame at times? Yes. Do I make excuses? Absolutely. I'm a human being, but I always try to go back to, you know what? I got to get better. But on the other end of that, you can also take that way too far. And you might be really freaking good. And you might be a great husband and a great father and a great brother and a great friend. You might be all those things. But if you don't feel it, it doesn't really matter. So I think it's about self awareness and I think it's about understanding ourselves. If there was anything you and I talked about today, Rory, 2 words: self awareness. That is what we talked about. So the advice that works really well for someone of look, it's your responsibility to get better, to take care of your family. It's your responsibility to be there for them and be the type of man that you really want to show up as. Be the type of man that you wish you had when you were younger. That's going to work for some people. For other people, it's brother, you are the type of man you needed. And you need to be all right with that. And you need to sit down and understand that because if you don't understand that now, nothing will ever get you to the place of understanding that. Whichever of those two resonates with you the most, maybe dig in. And whichever of those pisses you off the most, maybe dig in. Because oftentimes the advice that we want is not the advice that we hear. And the advice that we hear is not the advice that we would seek. So just don't villainize me because I'm only saying it because I love you. And I'm only saying it because I feel like that would have added value to my life in the past.
Great way to close out, man.
I appreciate it.
Absolute, but beautiful mic drop right there at the end. I think that's fantastic. Uh, CSO, founder, host of Next Level University, uh, king of the podcasters over here, man, with all these downloads. I mean, over 1 million for crying out loud. all around fantastic guy. Kevin Palmieri, thank you so much for coming on here today, sharing your story, letting people know they're not alone, and just bringing all that light, man. I can't thank you enough today.
The feeling is mutual. A good episode never happens without a wonderful host. So thank you for making me feel safe and giving me the opportunity to go as deep as we did. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome.
All right, folks, this has been another awesome episode of the Power Man podcast. The reason we bring powerful men like this on to talk about these very powerful topics is because we are all joined together in trying to help you with your mission of being a better provider, a better protector, a better leader for your family, about being a better man, a better husband, better father tomorrow than you are today. The reason we want that for you is because you have value and you are, in fact, worth it. You just have to believe it. Until next time.